I'm on the right instead of the left.
Oh, I think we are live.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Gail Morgan welcoming you to the Libertarian Counterpoint's Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. You've heard their point, now listen to the counterpoint.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. We are coming at you on April 14th, 2021, about 4.5 months into the Biden administration. Always crazy stuff going on there. But we're back to riots again. Yes, I don't think we're ever going to be able to get away from these things the way we're going. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name's Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So let's jump into this. We just talked about the Chauvin, Deric Chauvin, George Floyd trial last week, and we were going to have a little update on it today, but now there's been yet another sort of fumble by the cops, I guess you'd have to say, that's led to yet more rioting and going on same place. I guess Minnesota. I'm not sure if it's exact same city or location, but it's
it's not. It's not. Okay. Deric Chauvin situation occurred in Minneapolis, and this one occurred north of Minneapolis in a place called Brooklyn Center.
Oh, okay. So yeah, and in Brooklyn Center, we'll be talking about that a little bit as we go into this. But one of the crazy things is, that they had a guy who was driving. Police pulled the guy over. The guy's name was Dante Wright. And so they were not quite sure what the reason was why they pulled him over, but it turned out the guy had some open warrants. So they were going to arrest him. And as they were going through the process of arresting him, he decided to try to break free and take off in his car. And during the scuffle, one of the cops, a woman cop, pulled out what she apparently thought was her taser, but it actually was her service weapon, and she discharged it into Mr. Wright as he tried to escape. And I guess he was able to get a few blocks away before he died or something. And was able to drive a little bit farther away. But anyway, so now this has turned into yet another cop, white cop killing a black suspect. But in this case, we had body camera footage that was released right away. And in this case, you can clearly hear the officer, the female officer, as the guy, you can see him trying to pull his arm away from her and push himself away and get into the car. And you can hear her yelling, "Taser, taser, taser," I guess as a warning to everybody that she's going to fire a taser. Yeah. And then she discharges, and then she says, "Oh my God, I shot him." Or, she said something a little bit. She said, "Oh bleep, I shot him."
I shot him, yes.
Yeah.
I think she said, holy bleep. I shot him. Yes.
So there was a God and the bleep together. I knew there was some connection there. But regardless, we're now in a world of bleep again.
Yes.
Minneapolis, because it's more rioting, and of course the people are saying, oh my God, the cops have murdered this guy. It's another killing. It clearly, the police footage is showing that this was it was an accident of a sort, but it was certainly derived from a person trying to get away from the cops as well. So I mean, it's just a terrible accident, but we're right back into rioting again, and all while the George Floyd defense is going on as well.
Yes.
So you guys got any thoughts about this?
Well, the whole problem is the media portrayal of these events. Okay. Now, police officers have a very dangerous job to do, and at times things are going to go wrong, mistakes are going to happen. Now, if you are talking about clear-cut police misconduct, fine, let's prosecute the police officer. But if we are not talking about this, I do not know why why the media, the left-wing media, always have to present these things whenever it involves a white police officer and a black suspect, it always comes down to systemic racism. Every single time. Sometimes it is an outright, well, nearly every single time, it's an outright lie. We can go back in history and look at this thing. We had the Michael Brown case in Ferguson, Missouri. Oh, that was racism. The cop shot him. Hands up, don't shoot. It was a lie. Michael Brown fought the officer for his gun. Michael Brown tried to take the gun from the police officer. The police officer tried to shoot him. He ran off again. Then he tried to charge the police officer. Then the police officer shot and killed him. But you know what we heard? Systemic racism. Jacob Blake. We spoke about Jacob Blake. Also a situation where the police officer told him, put on the knife. Or put whatever it is. No, he was reaching for a knife. The police officer shot him. But the media always present these things as systemic racism. And they're doing the same thing right now. Well, let us hear the facts of the case. Let's hear the facts of the case. Maybe the police officer made a mistake. Maybe it's a tragic mistake. Maybe it's too grave a mistake for a police officer to be making. Maybe all of those things are true. But let us hear the facts of the case before you jump to these conclusions, stirring everybody up, causing these people to go riot and all these sort of things, which is sort of nonsensical when you think about it.
Yeah.
But these are the things that is happening. The media is making these things worse than they actually are.
Yeah, but that Jacob Blake thing, I just wanted to jump in. That's more than even the media, which was what was so disgusting about that, because Joe Biden himself jumped in on that one, along with Kamala Harris too. And they both talked up and down about how wonderful this guy was. This guy who had a restraining order against the person, this woman who he was violating, and she called the police because she wanted him gone because he had apparently sexually assaulted her before.
Yeah,
and so she wanted him gone, and the police showed up, and they literally tried 3 or 4 different ways to restrain him, and he kept resisting, and they were pointing their guns at him saying, "You got to get down, you got to stop," and the guy wouldn't stop, and then he reached into his car. There was a knife there.
Yeah, which he have now admitted. Which he have now admitted.
And Biden, this is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in a guy in Biden's position. He literally said the cop in that case should be charged before, and investigated. I mean, holy crap. The first thing should be there should be an investigation. Then if the evidence warrants it, charge him. Absolutely.
Yes,
if cop, did something wrong. This woman who looked like it might have been accidental, but she still shot this guy. There very well may be charges, maybe manslaughter charges for this. And if that's what the evidence warrants, then fine. That's it, so be it. But in the case of the officer with Jacob Blake, oh my gosh, if a police officer can't even try to do his job without Mr. Biden in the back seat, second guessing everything, and willing to throw him in jail, essentially, right? I mean, charge him. How terrible. I mean, that's just awful. But anyway, I just couldn't help that because it's
but even look at the Deric Chauvin thing. I mean, to be honest, look at all that happened because of the Floyd, the killing of George Floyd. Okay, look at all the things that have happened. Everybody was saying this knee on the neck, this knee on the neck. Fine, it looks bad. It really looks bad. But nobody have reported until the trial started. Nobody have reported that the police manual in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, allows a police officer to kneel on someone who's being unruly when they're trying to arrest them. It allows for it. I didn't even know that. For somebody who's up in the news, I didn't know this until the trial began. But again, the media presented it. Systemic racism. That's what it was. And they're going to save black people again. So everybody got out there and riot now. And if this verdict comes back and Deric Chauvin is found not guilty, remember the prosecutor in this case, the prosecution in this case must prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond a reasonable doubt. So if they can't do that, now they're gonna burn down Minneapolis if the verdict come out quote unquote wrong. If it comes out wrong. That's what's gonna happen.
Wow.
God help us.
This is so bleeping crazy that we are just totally bleeped, and I don't know what to bleep to think anymore.
We got 3 more years of bleep, Tim. At least 3 more.
I'm gonna get the bleep out of here. All right, I'm sorry. I shouldn't take light of the death of someone else again
Sure.
at the hands of those paragons of morality and restraint, the Minneapolis Police Department, who we will remind everyone killed that Australian lady in her bare feet and her pajamas when she called them to come and investigate a potential rape in the back alley of her apartment. And so she came down there, and then this guy from Somalia reached across and shot her right in the stomach, killed her. It took 20 minutes to die, of course. But anyway, then he was convicted. This is Minneapolis. This happened, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, as I recall. And he was convicted. And part of the department's explanation was that they run these recruits through really fast. They go through they fast track them through training.
They have to fast track them, Tim, because they're retiring so many of them so quickly that
that's right. That's right. Which is it's just going to get worse. And so you've got that factor. You've got these people that are fast tracked through training that they're going to just instinctively want to shoot people, especially some white woman. If you're a Muslim police officer and you see a scantily clad white woman coming up, approaching the car, you may want to just shoot her out of principles. I don't know. That's what they kept out of the trial. Now we're going to be taken down again from YouTube. This is racism.
Misinformation. Misinformation.
Even though it's brought, if you look at the Wikipedia on it, they mention that very thing
that I
just mentioned.
Of course.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. This is not the first time I've heard this.
Okay. So I'm not original. Will give me that. That bleeps me off. You know that? So anyway, so you've got that factor, this lack of training. You've got a gal with lack of training, and when she reaches for her taser, which is maybe located in a similar position, slightly behind, slightly ahead of her service pistol, in this case, probably a Glock 19. No problem there. But anyway, she reaches for it and points, instead of tasing the guy, she shoots him. Why are they stopping the guy? I don't know. I've heard, there's a law in Minneapolis that prevents you from putting dangly things on your mirror. A law against that. Okay. Like, none of those little fuzzy dice. And in this case, he had an air freshener on there. So, did he have expired plates? He was either stopped for the expired plates or for the air freshener. But during the stop, when they ran the guy's ID, they found out that he had warrants. One was a weapons charge, and one, I can't remember the other one.
The robbery, aggravated robbery.
Aggravated robbery. Oh, okay,
yeah, it was a robbery.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. All right. So I think we can probably assume that whatever their reason for stopping him was, they got the right guy. I mean, this guy was if not an out and out criminal, then he was someone very suspicious. And so, but I think this really is, to me, it's, and I hate to do this, and I hate to armchair quarterback these things. But in this case, there's at least a consideration for a mistake that because of lack of training, and this Minneapolis Police Department apparently is notorious for all these things. Either they have, like you mentioned, the training for leaning on the neck, however, not for 9 minutes. I mean,
right?
Yes,
exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. Yes.
So you've got this lack of training, and so this gal pulls out the pistol instead of the taser, and now you've got a dead guy. So anyway, all these things, Minneapolis really needs to clean up their act, because where are they getting all this money? $20 million for the gal that I mentioned, $20 million, and now $27 million.
27 million for Floyd family, yes.
For the Floyd family and the neighborhood, they have no idea how they're going to spend it, but they're going to spend it. So there you go. Where are they getting this money? Good question. I guess taxpayers.
Yeah,
funny money.
Funny money. But this was the question. I mean, we spoke about the Floyd thing the last time, and this was the question I raised. Yes, Chauvin started with a legitimate, a legal police procedure in kneeling on the neck. But the question that we always had to ask, to me, the question they should have been asking in the trial, which apparently they are not, did he go too far? Okay, then they could probably say he caused the death. Did he go too far even though he started off with something legitimate? Did he go too far in the process? And an update, if I could just jump around here, updating the situation that just happened with the shooting of Mr. Wright. The police officer was arrested on a second degree manslaughter or something like that. She was arrested today.
Okay.
Today. So that's just an update. Okay. But the point is though, first of all, I think that is way too soon. Okay, this has been done for political expediency. Investigate. Have an investigation. And if there is something wrong that a police officer did, I have no problem in her being prosecuted. But when did this thing happen? What, a few days ago? You're already arresting people over it? A police officer already?
Oh, and firing people.
And firing people
for having the gall, the audacity to say, gee, they need to go through due process. Due process,
exactly.
And yeah, Tim, let me clarify that. That was the city manager. He came out and he said, hey, look, we will decide what to do in her case through due process. We're not going to, just
jump to conclusions.
Exactly. Yes. We're going to give due process here. And he was literally fired for that, which is absolutely amazing. Mayor fired him, which shows you exactly the crazy media and Democrat control that's happening here, where they're just literally twisting things. And actually, that brings us up to another topic that I wanted to bring in here that's related to this whole trial. And so I'm going to share an image on the screen. And the image that I'm sharing, I guess I think it's up there now, isn't it?
Yes, we've seen it. Yes.
So one of the things that I had listened to in preparing for the show was Ben Shapiro, who is an attorney who's also a podcaster. He was he had done a review of some of the evidence that happened in the Deric Chauvin case. And essentially, it was about all of the blunders that the prosecution was doing as they were. The defense was able to get their expert witnesses to essentially come out and say that, yes, what Mr. Chauvin did here might have been reasonable. Yes, this was, police policy, these types of things. They were able to essentially get their own experts to contradict themselves. And that's essentially what this one podcast of Ben Shapiro's was showing. And if you look at this is what YouTube does. I mean, he's simply a lawyer that is reviewing the show, and they put up this warning that says the following content has been identified by the YouTube community as inappropriate or offensive to some audiences. Now, he's not swearing. He is not making caricatures of the prosecution or Mr. Floyd. This is literally just a breakdown of the trial, but because it questions the religious dogma that's going on here about this racial division that the left is trying to sow right now in the country. It's suddenly offensive or inappropriate.
Well, let me define for you what they mean by that exactly. Yeah. The audience that they're referring to, those are dumb people that are potentially offended by that content.
Careful, you might offend them.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. Now we are going to be. We'll have a similar content thing because I have just offended dumb people. And I'm sorry, but you're dumb. So just go ahead and the rest of us can go, I understand that I'm not dumb and I wish to proceed. You can click on that button if you are not dumb. But if you're dumb, don't look at that video, because that's not for dumb people.
You know what's so disturbing though is, we've been doing this podcast now for about a year roughly. I mean,
yes,
less, and we've done around 80 episodes, I think. And one of the crazy things, we just joined the club of YouTube cancellations. One of our shows was recently canceled where we talked about the Georgia voting law that's recently going up, and apparently YouTube found something offensive or incorrect. I think they said it was some kind of
misinformation. I think
misinformation about the election.
Yeah.
So essentially, because that's funny. The left was shouting Russia, Russia, Russia for 4 years with no evidence.
Oh yeah,
and suddenly
nonsense.
Yes,
that's okay.
Exactly. Okay. There's literally no misinformation there. But we question, some of the events that happened in Georgia recently with this protesting about this election law that is going on, and how Major League Baseball pulled out of there. Suddenly, we're getting, I guess we're joining good company.
Of course.
And YouTube, YouTube. Let me clarify. This is our opinion. This is what we're talking here. This is our opinion. Okay. This is not news. We are not a news source. Okay. We are here for an opinion and a little entertainment, and which you provide to us. Thank you very much, YouTube. You're dumb as rock as well.
But it just so bewildering that these snowflake losers who can be so triggered by anything that we say, and they could just suddenly decide, well, we are triggered by that, so we have to take you guys down. We cannot watch those things. But this is what is happening. They want to tell us what words we should speak, what ideas we should have in our heads, what things we should debate. That's what they're trying to do. We have to conform. We are now living in North Korea. We have to conform. We have to bow down to the great leaders and our great overlords. This is unbelievable. We have something up here.
Oh, that's their reasoning.
This is their reasoning. So they're saying that we are misleading because we are not screaming Russia, 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 and we're not going along with, I guess, why we need HR1 and how racist, how Jim Eagle. Remember, it's Jim Eagle.
Jim Eagle, yeah.
The Georgia voting law. So not even Jim Crow. It's Jim Eagle on steroids.
Jim Eagle, right. yeah. Which, as Tim said in a previous show, that Jim Crow on steroids is Jim Eagle.
Yeah.
And he's our screaming eagle. He knows these things.
Yeah, I know these
things, exactly.
All right. You're talking about my brethren here. Okay. These are my relatives, and be careful.
Well, speaking of which, we were, when we're talking about all of this crazy, trying to bend reality, essentially the media, social media, the corporate media, all this, they're trying to bend reality here to what people see in here. So, and one of the things we wanted to bring up in our Knucklehead Noise Patrol this week, and that's
which is early, by the way.
Bring it a little bit early, but it's because it all comes back to this recent riot or protest, depending upon who you are. If we call it a riot, maybe we'll get canceled. But essentially, the police chief of Brooklyn Center, where this incident with Dante Wright happened, he was being interviewed after essentially a riot started there. They started looting, or I guess as the corporate media would say, peacefully protesting by taking all of the Dollar Tree items off the shelf and not paying for them. And taking them home and using them and everything else. That's the part. But essentially, here's a little bit of how this press conference went. And what is so shocking is how the reporters are literally arguing with the source. That's the police chief, to try to get him to change his narrative to them right on the fly. So essentially, they're asking him about what happened the previous night with the protest / riot. And he was, the reporter says, "What was your decision to issue a dispersal order while they were peacefully protesting in front of the police station. And the police chief Gannon said, just so everybody's clear, I was in front of the center at the protest at the riot, he called it. Then one of the reporters said, don't do that. Meaning, they didn't like the fact that he characterized it as a riot. And then another reporter said, there was not a riot. Okay, now this is the police chief. He's the expert. He's the one they're interviewing for the news so that people can understand what the police chief, and they're literally telling him that the way he's characterizing it is not the way they want to hear it. And they want him to resend that. And so what he told them, he said, it was, with respect to, it being a riot, it was. The officers that were putting themselves in harm's way were being pelted with frozen cans of pop. They were being pelted with concrete blocks. And yes, we had our helmets on and we had other protective gear on, but an officer was injured, hit in the head with a brick. So we had to make a decision with respect to dispersing the crowd. So, I mean, literally he is a professional. He's who they're interviewing. And these reporters, 3 different reporters in this story, are literally telling him to, essentially go woke at the moment and, tell everybody, that this was all a peaceful protest when one of his officers got hit in the head with a brick. You guys have any thoughts on that?
If those idiotic reporters had just heard those words, those words of wokeness, it was a mostly peaceful protest. If they heard that, they would have been satisfied. But since the police chief, who is the man on the ground, okay, supervising his officers, since he used the word riot, of course, that was unacceptable. He should be canceled for that, I guess, is what they wanted to say. He should be canceled for characterizing this thing as a riot, which it was. Well, these people are disgusting and beyond belief.
They just fired, as Tim said, they just fired the city manager.
The manager for saying, imagine that. This is an attack on our constitutional rights. Okay? Because you're saying that somebody cannot have due process. Even if the police officer turned out to be wrong in that situation, she still has to have her constitutional rights, one of which is due process. This is unbelievable.
That goes back way beyond the Constitution. That right is the due process right. It's the Magna Carta, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's Magna Carta era rights here we're talking about, not just constitutional. I mean, things that have been a backbone, a bedrock of civilized society for centuries, literally centuries now. And they want to fire somebody for just reminding people that people are innocent until proven guilty.
Tell me the thing.
So if the media just wants to write their own story, why even interview anyone at the scene? Just make up their own, whatever they want to make up, baloney stuff. Or even better, it's still the guy standing out in front of the burning building, say it's mostly peaceful protesting. I mean, in front of the burning building. I mean, it's like, so they should get, I know what they should do. They should go to the front lines of the police there, turn their backs to the flying objects, because it's not a riot. Remember now. Yeah. They should be interviewing the police in riot gear with the helmets and go, why do you have that helmet on? You obviously don't need it. This is peaceful. There are no flying objects coming at you and at the back of my head, because I'm so woke and I'm so smart, and I'm just reminding you dumb police officers that okay, we gotta go. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We can't handle the media story anymore, and so this is our story. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you at the next one. Stay free.